Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk again about a franchise you all love. Of course, I'm talking about Forza Horizon, one of the best racing franchises of all time, which recently released its latest game, Forza Horizon 6. On this channel, we have already made 2 videos showcasing the Forza Horizon 2 beta, and yeah, there was a lot to discuss. If you haven't seen those 2 videos, I recommend watching them after this one. But today we are going to talk about the beta for the first Forza Horizon released in 2012. And believe me, it also has a lot of features that were removed, even more than you can imagine. Well, you probably already saw the video's thumbnail, right? I will try to cover as many things as possible in this video. But before starting, let's talk about our today's sponsor. For the best retro game accessories and consoles, including totally personalized ones like this beautiful PlayStation 1 right here, Stone Age Gamer is the best choice. And for orders over $75, you'll get $10 off with the coupon Mr. Vegas 10. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description below for the best retro game experience. I don't even need to mention how important Forza Horizon was for racing games, right? It basically created the festival racing genre. From the very first game, it was innovative, featuring stunning graphics, an awesome Colorado map to explore, and, of course, a fantastic soundtrack. I remember when I saw the game's trailer for the first time in my life, and just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Anyway, like any first game in a franchise, it obviously had several things that had to be changed or simply cut from the final version, whether due to time constraints or become too large. Let's first talk about the builds of this game available online. There are basically 2. The E3 2012 demo, dated June 1, about 3 months before the game's final release. It's a very short demo, lasting about 5 minutes, that shows only the arrival at the Horizon Festival. But within Free Roam mod, we can address this. And I also want to mention that in our video discussing the Forza Horizon 2 prototype, we talked about a debug build dated October 10, 2013, about 1 year after the game's release. It was basically used by Suno Digital as a visual reference for Forza Horizon 2 and also features a debug menu. However, it doesn't differ in basically any way from the final version we are familiar with. So in this video, you will see gameplay footage recorded using the E3 demo with the Free Roam mod, the post-release build of the game, and also a mod created by the Forza community called Project Synthesis, which aims to restore most of these removed features. So, first off, I'd like to thank the creators of this mod, especially Kitsu and Dugas. Without them, this video wouldn't have been possible. They both helped me from start to finish, and together with the rest of the Forza community, they're the ones truly responsible for the discoveries we will be discussing here in the video. Let's start by talking about the graphics. I'm going to mention something that's very clear when watching the 2012 E3 demo. The graphics were slightly downgraded in the final version. Take a look at this comparison of the demo's graphics with the debug version. I set the in-game time to a similar point so that both would have basically the same skybox and haze effects. As you can see, the haze effect in the demo version is marginally better, with more rays of light. As a result, the game's overall tone changes too. It has a slightly orange hue. Another small difference is the reflections on the cars. Talking about the changes that have occurred on the game's map, and believe me, there are a lot of them. So I will say right off the bat that I will probably forget something. If that happens, don't forget to mention it in the comments. But let's start with the massive number of buildings that lack any textures in this version. During gameplay, it's very easy to spot these instances. In addition, there are areas that simply have no collision, and out of nowhere you fall into limbo like here. One of the locations that was still in the early stages of development was the old factory in the game. In the prototype, it's completely missing textures, and its entrances roads have no collision, making it impossible to enter without using the free cam. The city of Carson is another example that underwent many changes, featuring some different buildings and several unfinished parts. An interesting fact about this city is that in the E3 version, it has a building that is simply the same as the Lakeside Dinner, the one at the beginning of the game, but here they changed the color of it to brown and add other banners. This building doesn't appear in the final version of the game. Another interesting fact about this same location at the beginning of the game is that in an even earlier version of it, it was supposed to be a completely different building and be located elsewhere on the map. How do we know this? In the cutscene shown at the beginning of the E3 demo, you can see a very 60s style American diner in the background. In addition to this cutscene, the files contain 2 images that appear to show where the game would begin, and there's a completely different diner. The original image has low resolution, so I use AI to try to upscale it so you can see it better. Well, I will make it easy for you. This is the dinner. Yes, the oldest known version of the lakeside dinner can be found in the demo, near the town of Carson. It looks very different from the one in the final version, and as I said before, it's much more reminiscent of a classic 60s diner. Interesting, isn't it? Speaking of other places that have changed, I need to mention the outposts found in the gameplay. Did you know that in early versions, they were supposed to be gas stations? Yes, there are examples of this in the game's E3 demo, such as the outpost located north of the festival. In that version, it isn't textured and doesn't have any collision data. But of course, it was eventually replaced by the version we're familiar with. An interesting fact is that in this E3 version, they were likely already working on changing the gas station concept to what we see in the retail version, since in other locations you can already find a building very similar to the final outpost, though of course still without textures and with collision issues. Another major change takes place at the festival itself. For example, the entrance arches are different and the fences in this version of the festival are grey. The festival itself has undergone quite a few changes as well, especially in its visual identity, which we will discuss more later in this video. But to summarize, in the beta version, the structures for each feature were in transition to the model found in the final game. This becomes clear when comparing the final version to the beta. Aside from the auto show structure, all the others are in their beta stage and are completely different. In this build, there is also an unfinished barn, where you can see that, by a mistake, the car still lacks textures and has been placed outside of it. And finally, I'd like to mention a fun fact. In the opening cutscene of the retail version of Forza Horizon, when Alice gives you a map, that map is actually from a development version of the game. How do we know this? Well, on the retail's game map in the Clifton Valley region, there's a trace of a track that's blocked off in the final game. It's located right here. In the beta version, for some reason there isn't anything blocking you, but just like in the retail's version, it doesn't have any collision detection. However, in that cutscene, it appears as a track we could not only drive on, but even looks like that have a racing icon on it. We don't know why it was removed, but apparently it was in a very advanced stage of development, since it's even referenced in cutscenes. Now, let's talk about the soundtrack. Compared to the retail version, in the E3 demo, almost all the radio stations have different songs. First, though, let's talk about the radio stations themselves. Horizon Pulse, Horizon Base Arena, and Horizon Rocks had beta logos. Horizon Rocks is particularly interesting in this regard. In the beta version of the game, the station is called Horizon 211, as you can see in its logo, but that's not all. Inside the game files, there are radio jingles from when the station had a different name. Listen to it.
You're tuned to Horizon 211, an official station of the Horizon Festival. Up to 11, 24/7. You're listening to Horizon 211.
Turning up the race, turning up the rock.
But let's talk now about the list of songs that were cut. 2 Adele songs were removed from the final game. They are Hometown Glory from the Horizon Base Arena and Set Fire to the Rain from the Horizon Pulse. The song Let Me Go by Maverick Sabre was originally in the Horizon Base Arena as a remixed version, but in the retail it was moved to the Horizon Pulse. But in its original version, there was also supposed to be the song Paranoid by Black Sabbath in the Horizon Rocks. And for me, the most interesting case is the song Feel the Thunder by the band Psychomagic, a song that was simply never released. That's right, in the game's demo, there's a song that simply disappeared after the demo was released. The band still exists, but there's no online mention of this song outside of the game itself. In other words, if it hadn't appeared in the game, it could even be considered lost media.
When the angel falls, opens up the sky, there'll be nothing left, they will die. Oh, I can feel the thunder, I can feel the thunder,
Speaking of the cars, unfortunately I'll have to keep this brief, since in the E3 build we weren't able to load any cars other than the Viper. So let's start by talking about this iconic car. An obvious change is that in the demo it's shown in its default color, red. And this is really significant because the yellow Viper with two black stripes, which is driven at the beginning of the game, is a key part of its retail's game visual identity, even appearing on the game's art cover. Another thing is that in the demo, some cars have different brand logos compared to the final version, such as the TVR. We also have a manufacturer that was completely removed. I'm talking about Renault. The cars that were going to be featured is the Twingo, the 5 Turbo, and the Megane RS250. All of these cars are not included in this build, so whenever you try to load one, the emulator crashes. Before talking about the icons, I also want to briefly mention the HUD since we have some pretty significant changes on it. The most noticeable change, which you've probably noticed in all the gameplay videos, is that the speedometer in the E3 build has a different design from the final version. But one thing I haven't shown you yet is the beta GPS map design. Well, what you're seeing in the background is actually the same one shown in Alice's cutscene. It was found in the game files and restored by Project Synthesis, which is where I'm recording the gameplay. It has a dark gray background and all the roads are orange, with major highways shown in pink. It gives the game a more vintage, original old map look, and that is really cool in my opinion. But now let's talk about the icons. Kitsu created a very comprehensive comparison image showing the changes made to the icon. And not only that, but also how the visual identity of the entire game evolved throughout the different stages of development. Even in the E3 build, there are already some significant changes, such as the game arrow, race icons, and even the barns. It's interesting to note that an even older version of the race icons than the one used in the E3 demo was found in the game files. During an earlier phase of development, some of the wristband colors were different. For example, number 4 was blue, number 6 was orange, and number 7 was purple. This was already a major and significant change to the icon's visual identity, since in the final version all icons would have a more rounded design, unlike the E3 build, which features different shapes. But if we dig a little deeper, we find something even more interesting. Within the game files, there are icons from even earlier stages of development, and here things really change completely. First, the main festival icons would all be blue, with significant differences in design. And you can even see that the old outpost icon was literally a gas pump, which directly reflects this change the game went through. But did you notice that there is an extra icon? Yes, for some reason there's an airplane icon in the game files, making it clear that at some stage of development there was supposed to be an airport in the game. But we will discuss a possible reason for this later in the video. Well, if we look further to the right, we can identify icons that simply don't match anything found in the final game at all, with a much more caricatured and alien-like design for some strange reason. As shown in the image, it's unclear exactly which items these would have replaced, but Kitsu was able to match some of them with icons from the final game. He even created a concept of what one of this alien icon would look like when a road was discovered. And another piece of evidence that these items were indeed canonical to the game's lore is that at the E3 build festival, the towers and banners featured the old visual style from that development phase. In other words, the HUD items would likely have matched those from the festival itself. Cool, right? Now let's talk about the mechanics that were removed. I will start with one that already appeared in one of the gameplay videos, though I ignored it on purpose. I'm talking about the building that appears in the event labeled Auction House. Well, here's the thing, auctions weren't a feature until the third game in the franchise, released in 2016. But yeah, at some point during the first game, they had already considered implementing this system. The only evidence we have is this building. But if they spent time designing an entire building for the festival, we can assume it wasn't removed that early in development, right? Another thing we would have had was a flash effect if the car crashed at high speed. I thought it was strange that they removed it because it adds realism to the game. One last thing, after a few races, you were supposed to hear comments from other racers on the radio. They would tell stories and sometimes make fun of you. The files only contain placeholder audio clips for this feature, which was also restored in Project Synthesis. This video will give you an idea of what it would have sounded like.
Hi guys, I'm here at the main stage, behind the scenes to try and get a handle on what it takes to keep the music festival like Horizon going. Oh, it's going alright. It's going south. Asterisk laughs asterisk that's Rodi Derot Mark you can hear the Hi Horizon. So it looks like you've got your work cut out for you. changing for each set. It's day 2 stuff. I can't do it with my eyes closed. Only trouble with it these days is avoiding the celebrities. I thought you'd be looking out of them. You reckon? We so much as catch the eye of some of these superstars. We're zapped on the spot. Yeah, that's hardly the spirit of this festival. Not this one, damn. There's only one guy here we are forbidden to look in the eye. Who's it then? Oh, do I look like an idiot? Talking to you about it. Is it the current champion, Barry Goose Flint? No. Damn it.
There are some cutscene files that weren't used in the final game either, and Kitsu managed to restore them to the retail game. I won't show them all, but I will highlight a few that are interesting. It's not clear exactly what they were intended for, but judging by the way they were made, they might be part of the game's intro, or a cutscene that would play when you are teleported to a specific location on the map. If you know anything about them, let me know in the comments. Another cutscene I want to show is one found in the game's post-release build. It shows what appears to be a teaser or trailer for the game that was never released. Unfortunately, the background music will be replaced to avoid copyright issues. Now, let's discuss what is probably the most interesting and at the same time the strangest discovery of all. Did you know that at one point there were plans to include cities in Malaysia and Italy in the game? That's pretty specific, isn't it? Now, let's get into the details. First, I will show you a map that was discovered within the game files. And it's a map of an Italian city called La Spezia. On it, you can see a rough draft of the roads and their respective locations. One interesting thing is that the way this sketch was drawn is very reminiscent of the beta map found in the Forza Horizon 2 prototype. The overall layout is quite similar. In addition, there are other references to La Spezia, such as a height map file that literally has that name. Not only that, but following the same pattern of discoveries, there are also mentions of Sabah in Malaysia. So yes, apparently it was planned that this game would have 2 additional locations. In the case of Sabah, we also have a height map with that name, which is actually the same as the one found for La Spezia. And this leads us to believe in a theory that makes a lot of sense. Remember when I showed you that an airport icon was found in the game files? Well, maybe there was actually supposed to be an airport in the end, and it might have had a specific function. We can imagine that this airport could be used in some DLC, for example, so you could travel to other cities or regions. What I mean is that you probably would have a way to travel to Malaysia and Italy. Of course, in the case of Italy, in the next game we were able to enjoy at least part of it, along with France. But Malaysia has never been a setting in any Forza Horizon game, but who knows, maybe it will be in the future. So that's it for today. But before I finish the video, I want to thank all the Forza community again, especially Kitsu and Dugus, who helped me a lot with this video. And do not forget to check out the Project Synthesis, a really cool project that aims to restore the Forza experience to its beta version. The link to the project will be in the description. And of course, if I forgot to mention anything, be sure to leave it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.